And on that question, recognize the gentleman from Lancaster County, Mr. Cutler.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think anytime we enter a debate that is this important, that it's important that we get the terms and the facts straight. Mr. Speaker, the gentleman previously referenced automatic weapons. Automatic weapons are already regulated by the federal government. They've been so for decades. What the gentleman is proposing is background checks for private transactions for citizens, many of which we call friends and neighbors. I think the one thing that we do agree on is that there are essentially three types of gun owners. There are those individuals who legally are allowed to possess firearms, and there's two groups which we legislate quite routinely. Those who are criminals, who it is illegal to possess firearms, and the mentally ill who should not possess firearms as outlined in our current law. So on that point, we would agree. The problem, Mr. Speaker, is any time that we attempt to regulate an item so sensitive as this, the question is, how do we impact each of those three groups, and what will the outcome likely be? Of those three groups, I would offer that the law-abiding citizen is the one who will bear the burden of this additional regulation. Mr. Speaker, it's important to note that currently, under state law, firearm purchasers made from retailers are already subject to background checks. So if I buy myself or my wife a hunting rifle, I have to go through a background check. Only 6 states currently provide for universal background checks. They are, in alphabetical order, California, Colorado, Connecticut, Delaware, New York, Rhode Island. That includes all private transactions. Only 2 states provide for the private transfer of handguns, Pennsylvania and Maryland. The remaining 42 states do not require background checks for the private sale of firearms. Unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, if you look at the crime data from all of these states, there is not a direct correlation between increased safety and universal background checks. And I would offer that some of the states that are on the list that already have universal background checks has significantly higher crime rates than we do. Mr. Speaker, what we fundamentally disagree on is how we are going to get where we want to go, and that is making sure that the mentally ill and the criminals do not have firearms. We should also enforce the existing laws. Going back to 2004, on average, in 2004, 1.25 straw purchasers. That is the illegal purchase of a firearm. For example, you may have someone buy it on your behalf because they can pass a background check, but as a felon, the criminal could not. 1.25 per county. In 2011, we're only up to 2. The truth is, Mr. Speaker, in 2013, the Justice Department did a review and found, quoting from their report, a perfect universal background check system would not address the largest source of crime guns. That's because the majority of guns used in crimes are stolen or purchased illegally through straw purchases, which is already illegal. Journal of American Medicine from 2000 said, again, quoting from their report, there is no evidence that the implementation of the Brady Act was associated with a reduction in homicide rates. This isn't a political position. It's a medical journal that looked at violent crime rates, specifically homicides, and determined that there was not a direct correlation. In fact, I would offer that the opposite has actually happened. From 2006 to 2012, firearm sales in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania have more than doubled. Violent crime, meanwhile, has decreased by 15%. I would offer that more guns in the hands of law-abiding citizens leads to decreased violent crime. Mr. Speaker, our role as policymakers, we oftentimes struggle with limited resources. To me, it makes sense to focus on those areas where we will have the largest possibility of a successful outcome. Reviewing FBI crime statistics shows that handguns are used in 60% of the homicides. Long guns, as defined by the gentleman, are 1.3%, and shotguns 3%. We're well below the national average of 5.4%. Mr. Speaker, I would offer that our current laws are working, and this gentleman's proposal only would impact those individuals who probably already subject themselves to a background check. Because I'd like to give a very real-world example. Mr. Speaker, it is already illegal to knowingly sell a firearm to somebody who is not allowed to possess it. As outlined, Title 18, 6111, subsection C, F2, and G2. That's already existing law. And we, as private citizens, have a duty to do that. Additionally, I would offer for liability reasons, if for no other, you would also subject yourself to this for a transaction. The only individuals who will not put themselves forth for a background check are those individuals that won't pass anyway. They'll obtain their guns illegally, as they do currently. Mr. Speaker, furthermore, if you look at the number of denials and our arrest rate, in terms of an enforcement record, in terms of accuracy or success, we arrest only 2 to 3% of those individuals who have been denied a firearms license or purchase for the last 4 years. 2 to 3%. I would offer that thousands of more individuals are unknowingly denied for wrongful reasons, rather than the 2 to 3% that are arrested. While I understand the gentleman's argument that every life is sacred, and I agree with that, the reality is we have to make choices based on fact, not emotion. And we have to base our decisions on good terms and make sure that we're arguing over the proper things. Or debating, I guess, would be the more civil term. Mr. Speaker, unfortunately, the data is at best inconclusive that a universal background check such as this would have a meaningful impact on crime. And for that reason, I would recommend that my colleagues join me in voting against this amendment and the current proposal. Thank you.